I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. Hello. Good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to this special edition version of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Yeah, I'm not wearing a tie today. Honestly, I just woke up from a nap. These next 10 shows are going to be pretty comfortable. But also, I've never been able to rock my UCR merch because I'm always wearing a tie. So if you want to check out that UCR merch, it's in the link below. You guys, welcome. Today's going to be fun. We're going to be replaying an interview that we did with Rich Hoffman. But before we do, we've got a friend of the show who's here, who's going to be hanging out with us. Maybe the whole show. We'll see. But without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Ryan Sprague. Ryan, what's shaking, buddy? Oh, you're muted.
Happy holidays, my man. I did it. I'm the Zetterstrom of tonight already. Happy holidays, Luis.
Happy
man.
holidays, man. Look at this. I did not tell Ryan what we were doing today. He shows up in a Christmas sweater with a tie, and
This
I'm like,
tie is
"What's
for
up,
you.
dude? I just woke up from a nap, but I appreciate it, man. That's funny.
You deserve a break. I will wear the tie tonight, and I'm happy to be here, man. I'd never seen this interview, so I'm happy to watch
great.
it.
Awesome. Well, it's a cool little interview. We're gonna have Rich Hoffman on in the new year again, especially now that UAPX is starting to really swing into some things, or the SCU and UAPX is part of that. Yeah. So that'll be cool. I can't wait to have Richard Hoffman back. He's such a nice guy. But I guess before we get started, let's pay a couple bills. Might as well. Of course, music is by Das Tapes, so check them out. Bandcamp link is in the description below. We've got a Patreon. We've got super chats are open for these replays. So if you guys want to donate, please do. Every dollar is we're a public access channel, so we're supported by viewers like you. It goes a very long way to making sure we can do this show pretty much every day. So thank you for that. Also want to thank the moderators. Want to say hey to everybody in the chat: Akashi Chris, Aaron DeSario, G West, Kev D, Andrew Hillier, Simon Fly. What's going on, you guys? I'm so happy you're here. Rodrigo Vieira. ¿Cómo estás, señor? Jason Fay, how you guys doing? So happy you guys are here. All right, so let's get started. We're going to go over a little bit of news today because there was some fun stuff that happened over the weekend. You actually pointed out one of them to me, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, man. That was an interesting one. If you want to, whenever you want to dive into it, it's causing quite a stir in the UFO Twitter world right now.
It is. Well, let's talk about it. So it was a post by Stephen Greenstreet, right? Is this the one we're talking about?
He was the one that. Now, by the time Stephen tweeted it, it's a post from Reddit. By the time Greenstreet tweeted it, it already had like 700 replies on the subreddit. So that thing had been there for a hot minute before I saw it, before anyone really even knew it was there. So pretty interesting.
I'm looking up Stephen Greenstreet's thing. I probably should have done this before the show, but let me find the Reddit post. It was actually very interesting. It was let's see here. It was written by a U.S. Army, supposedly written by a U.S. Army counterintelligence agent. And he basically lays out correspondence that he had with Lou Elizondo and the TTSA team at the time, To the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge, and kind of walked away with something's not right here. I'm not sure. I can't really put my finger on it, but something's not right in the way that they did the meetings, set up a meeting with him at a hotel, and then it turned out that there was a TV crew at the hotel at the same time, right? If I'm not mistaken, if I read it correctly. The one thing that I took away that I thought was sort of I mean, my takeaway. I guess let's put it that way. Let me see here. Where is it? I'm looking for it in this article. Or not article, but it's like a blog post, basically saying that, he's been in this counterintelligence game for a very long time. I'm paraphrasing here, but that he's talked to too many people, he's seen too many things, and his primary takeaway is that UFOs are real. There is an actual phenomena, but the motivations and the whole story behind the TTSA thing and how this story came out and the process in which it came out, just something's not right about it, and that's not the first time we've heard that. But then again, for me, this is the first time we've really had government personnel at this level coming out and disclosing this kind of information. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I could see how some of this doesn't seem right, because they're essentially whistleblowers. So, but whistleblowers with a TV show. So that was the thing that sort of that caught him. But what were your takeaways from it, I guess?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, ever since the start, since Elizondo came on the scene, like, we've all had time, like, ebbs and flows in how much we take what he has to say, either to heart or with a grain of salt. And this post was pretty interesting. It laid out this meeting that we actually saw. I don't know if you remember, Lou, but this was part of Unidentified, this meeting that supposedly took place at the Pentagon. And, Tom DeLonge was there. Elizondo was there. There were uniformed military people at that meeting. So this dude who wrote this post was basically saying, I was there. I was one of those people. Yeah. And it's all bullshit. Like, what they're telling you has been painted a completely different way in the TV show. This was at like the cafeteria. All these things they were saying about alien bodies and this and that. It was all conjecture. None of this was actually proven. But the show kind of painted it as, oh yeah, we're in on it. And we want to work with you guys because everything you're saying is true. So again, we have to take this Reddit post with a grain of salt as well. We don't know who this person is. There's nothing to back it up. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I did see just maybe an hour ago, I want to say, 20 minutes ago, actually, John Greenwald posted about this and said, I think this is legit. I've been holding this story back for like 2 years now, but I think this guy's legit. And I think what he's saying is real. So I don't know, man. Again, it's just smoke and mirrors with all of this from the very start.
Well, it's a Reddit post and he also asks in this post, hey, are there any mods that need to verify my employment or who I am and what I'm talking about? I'd be more than happy to share that information. According to him, he's so close to retirement that he doesn't believe this is going to rub anybody the wrong way, but he's not ready to full blown, tell everybody who he is or where he worked. But he said he would verify it again with moderators. I'm assuming John Greenwald may have been one of those people. I don't think he's a moderator on Reddit, but wouldn't shock me if he in some way talked to John. I haven't read that story yet just because I was taking a nap. So I don't know what was going on with that.
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to look at it either. But he did say, like, I second this. So
yeah. Well, the one quote that I was referencing here from the gentleman that wrote this article, and it's got 1.3 thousand upvotes, which is a lot for Reddit.
It's a lot.
He writes, I started this wild ass journey back in 2018, not really paying much attention to UFOs or UAPs or whatever. I now have read enough, heard enough, and seen enough to have moved to UFOs/UAPs are 100% real, but we don't know exactly what they are. So,
I mean,
that's coming from the guy who wrote this.
Yeah, and if he's legit, like, it's a pretty bold statement, and I think that's awesome. And I mean, Lewis said the same thing. So, I don't know, man. It seems like whoever this guy is, he had sort of a gripe with Elizondo personally, because
Hmm.
apparently in that Reddit post, the guy said that Elizondo was kind of offering him a job at whatever ATIP was now in
Yeah.
the
Well,
intel
I
community.
my understanding was he was maybe looking for a job, and the reason
Yes.
why they
Yeah.
had the meeting was to be like, okay, well, let's see if this could work. Um, and
Interesting. Okay.
it doesn't sound like it did. Didn't sound like it did
Mm,
work out. But this is another interesting thing that he wrote regarding Elizondo and DeLong. I don't know exactly what their angle was regarding all of this. Their publicly stated stance is of disclosure, but the way they interacted with me and the runaround I experienced at the bleeping Pentagon put a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not going to sit here and call their entire endeavor bullshit because I don't know. I don't think, because I don't think on some level it is. There are too many stories from the witnesses interviewed for it to be simply a complete nonsense. So he believes the story, but there's something that's seems to be off. And he again, like he doesn't pinpoint it. He does. I mean, he actually says, but I maintained from the beginning that something is a bit off, especially with the way Elizondo's involvement started, how he went about all of this, and the nature of the subject itself. Personally, my thought was that this is a giant smoke screen and part of some kind of deception operation the United States government is running to cover up for something else. What that could be, who knows? But for the people touting that disclosure is coming, they're sure taking their sweet ass time. Um, and he wrote, "Sorry for the long post. There are many more bits to this, but this is already a Dickensian treatise." I'm not sure what that means.
I think he was referring to Charles Dickens. I could be wrong on that.
Okay,
Like super long diatribe, maybe. But
maybe.
I
Okay,
don't
I didn't
know,
get
man.
that joke past me. I will be
Yeah.
willing to answer questions and provide more information. Also, I want to reiterate the following points. There are events. These are the events as they exactly occurred. These are my personal opinions. This is not the stance of the United States government or the Army. Nothing here is actually classified. Again, for intelligence community people reading this, I can verify my identity to a mod if needed. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting post. And I know Stephen Greenstreet hopped all over because Stephen, I feel like he's maybe one of the most misunderstood guys in this topic right now,
He
only because
is.
he's aggressive with it. Like I feel like some people can't tell that it's almost like he's doing a little bit of satire in a way, where he's making fun of the community while at the same time trying to point out to them, hey, there's something not right here. Like
Oh,
I
dude.
think there's definitely a fire to the smoke on the whole topic, but the
Yes.
way we're discovering where this fire is there's something just off about it. And I think that's fair to say. Like that's not an unfair statement, but at the same time, we're new waters. Like I don't know what's the right way. Like what is Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon? What would have been a better way for them to do this? I don't know the answer to that question because I'm not an intelligence professional. But
Right.
it does seem and Greenstreet and John Greenwald have been kind of saying this for a couple years, and a lot of people have been jumping in their shit because I don't want to say put people up on pedestals, but we have to be careful. We have to question everybody. That includes Lou, that includes Mellon, that includes Dietrich, that includes Fravor. We have to question them as politely. We have to do it. It's like walking on eggshells almost, but we have to ask hard questions. And sometimes these questions, they don't get answered because they're hidden with a cloud of NDAAs. I can't talk about it because I still work with the government. There's a lot of gray area here that is very difficult to navigate and understand because it's just a weird thing.
It is. And like I'm glad you use the analogy of like new waters, because we all are. And I got some flack. had Green Street on my show last week with Nick Pope, I had the opportunity to
Yeah.
actually go to the basement office here in
How
New
was
York
that, by the
City.
way?
I was granted access. It was interesting.
Where was it? Was it like in a house in Queens or something?
No, I'm not allowed to say where the basement office is, but it is in a very prominent building. Yes, it's in Manhattan. And that's all I can really say. I'm not allowed to tell where it is for obvious reasons.
Right.
That being said, like it was amazing. And look, I've had issues with Nick Pope in the past, still do. Just like everyone does in this field, every personality, every researcher. But
did you guys talk about that at all when you went to visit him? Like,
yeah,
hey Nick, I like you, man, but some of your views are kind of like, what's going on?
Totally. And by the end, we were shaking hands, and I was like, safe flight home, man. Thank you for your time. And that's how it should be. Right. Like, I might not agree with Nick on certain things, whether it's politics or even his credentials. A lot of people have put into question.
Somebody said it was in the Trump hotel.
No comment. No comment. No, it was not in the Trump hotel. I can promise you that.
I don't even think Ryan Sprague would step foot into the Trump hotel.
I will say this. The building I went into, I got some looks going in and coming out, but I'm not going to say anything more.
Okay.
But dude, it was an awesome experience. I got to see kind of this new Green Street, who's kind of taken some time off. He dropped off of Twitter, which I thought was a great thing to do because he was working on season 3 of the show. A lot of people didn't think it was happening. I didn't. I have been very vocal of, nope, they're done. New York Post doesn't want to do it anymore, which might still be true. I'm not exactly sure. But
well, if they didn't, they wouldn't be doing season 3, right?
Well, that's up to Steven. No, he owns he owns, kind of the, what would you call it? The IP and everything of the basement office. So he can bring it wherever he wants, as long as he funds filming it and everything. And no, the office is not in the New York Post. So I can put that rumor to rest as well. But I feel like I'm giving too much away. Steven's going to kill me. The dude has been on a journey. And he's come out on the other side with a lot more questions about what we've been told the past few years. And I don't blame him. And that's why I think he was one of the first to really jump on this Reddit post, because he saw a lot of what he was looking into in this post as well. And he did share with me some of what's to come in season 3. And a lot of it is looking in the mirror at ourselves and really questioning, what do we want out of all this? And will we like the answers when we actually get them? And I think that's good. I think we should question a lot of what's going on. So I'm glad he's doing that. I really am.
Eventide with a $5 donation. Thank you so much. He seemed mostly hung up on being filmed without consent, which is totally understandable. Going back to this Reddit poster, which, absolutely. I'd be pissed off too if I knew I was being filmed or recorded without anybody telling me. Which
and
I'm
out
pretty
of
sure
context too.
If that was in the state of California,
that's illegal. Yeah.
It's illegal.
Yep. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting. See, that's where I'm like, I don't know if I believe this, because why wouldn't you turn around and sue them if that's the
right?
case?
And he was saying like the camera people were like up 2 levels, like zooming down in. But again, like if anyone in that building saw a film crew, they'd probably go up to him and be like, "What are you doing? Like, do you have a license for this?" Or like that happened to me.
Or they had permission from the hotel before and they knew what was going on. Now I know there are ways you can get around that.
Yeah.
You can put literally a piece of paper on the front door that says there's a camera crew here and you may be recorded, just so you know before you enter the building. And if you're not really paying attention, you can miss that.
Yeah.
So
now that you mention it. Yeah, they do that in New York too. I work at a concert venue and they record a lot of the concerts, and it's the same thing on the door. It's like, if you don't adhere to this, like, don't come in or whatever. So
right. No, I mean, maybe that's how they got away with it.
Maybe, but a lot of people have pointed out the guy, he doesn't really sound like Intel. I don't know what exactly that means, but
I don't know what that means either. It's almost kind of like what Sean Cahill says, like when he said, if I want to hear about ice cream, I want to hear about it from Ben and Jerry. But when I want to hear about military discussions, I want to hear about it from 4-star generals and people who know the lingo,
Right.
and how to speak about it. But yeah, I'm wondering though. You were talking to Greenstreet and Nick Pope. Like, what is going to be the focus of this? Do you know where this year's basement office is this season? Is it going to be focused on that I guess the military tech portion of this discussion?
So in the interview, he made it very clear that this season will be about, and he got really close to the mic like I'm doing,
Yeah.
drones.
Yeah.
Drones, baby.
There's
Which I think is awesome.
There's a great
It's
meme
great.
with him that just says drones.
Drones. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
He made it very clear that he's not out to debunk the UFO phenomenon. He's out to say, hey, this is how the military or the intelligence agencies could be using this extremely malleable phenomena to their own means. And of course they are. So is every politician. So is every UFO researcher. So is every television show. That's what happens when you have a unanswerable phenomena or mystery. Like, it's going to be bent to whatever lens you use. And the other thing, he brought up this really good analogy, and I really like this. He said, if you are on a boat and you're like 1 degree off going the wrong way, it's okay at first. You're not really going to notice. But if you've been going off that trajectory for over 2-3 years, where are you now? And where were you supposed to be? And I really, really liked that. I never really thought of it that way. We do that. We do that in the UFO field. We narrow in on one aspect of it. And if we keep going down that road, our focus becomes more narrow, and then where's the rest of it? So I did appreciate
we're missing
that.
a whole bunch of good information. No, it makes sense. And Gary Voorhees saying, how's everyone doing tonight? Gary Woodshake, I'm glad you're here. And then somebody had written this guy here, Buck Wild. Jeremy McGowan ran over my foot with the Osiris the other day. I would get that checked out, my friend. But yeah, it feel like Greenstreet and Greenwald are incredibly misunderstood because you have they believe this is real. Like, they think there is something to this phenomenon. Greenwald has said on our show, if there's one thing I've learned over the 20 plus years I've been doing this, there's a cover up going on 100%. Something has happened. They're covering something up. And it's the same thing with Greenstreet. I mean, he's seen one. He had an experience as a younger adult. And, oh no, we lost Ryan. What happened? Let's see if he comes back. But yeah, I mean, like, both of these guys believe in this topic. They believe that there is a there. And I think they get a lot of slack for that, or a lot of flack for it, rather. Let's see, Ryan's back. All right, there we go. But yeah, I mean, it seems like both of them get a lot of crap for being believers, but questioning it to the highest degree, which I think is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I mean, that's why I have been following John's work for so many years. I feel like he keeps me grounded because, as a researcher who deals with a lot of UFO sightings and experiencers, it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in that, and your feet just get further and further off the ground. Where there are people like Greenstreet who bring me back down, slap me in the face, and say, "Hey, remember, there's this whole other side to this topic." And lest we forget that. So I appreciate it. I think they get a lot of, I think it's more of how they do it. That's the problem that rubs people the wrong way. They're not afraid to just tell it like it is. And a lot of people don't like that.
It's true. It's true. A lot of people don't like to be forced to think outside of their belief system.
Yep.
And I've had this issue before too. Like, I've ran across this myself personally. It's tough sometimes to be like, I don't want to look at this because this might ruin my whole life. But it's not going to ruin your life. I mean, again, there's a there. Something's there.
Mhm.
enough to a point where we now have laws that have been written that will be signed by a president and a brand new office created because there is a there.
Yep. Let me
So
show you something.
yeah, what do
I
you got?
got today. I wrote. I don't know if you can see it. I'm writing 2 letters to my Senator Gillibrand and
Oh, right
sending
on.
them to her to thank her for what she has done.
Yeah,
I'm very proud to be one of her constituents, and I hope she gets it. Who knows? Who knows if she'll even read it? But I think
I think
like
she will.
we at least owe it to her
Yeah,
to show her that we appreciate it. And I think you and a lot of other people had a lot to do with that, a lot more than people actually think. So
hmm.
I want to commend you and everything you've done with the Big Phone Home events and
Thanks, man.
having actual representatives on your show. Like it made a difference. The representative you had on the Big Phone Home is the only one to go in front of the House and actually talk about this. That's incredible, man.
Yeah,
And you can't tell me that was a ripple effect from what you did. So I know I'm on UCR, but I'm going to commend UCR as well right
appreciate it.
now for doing that, of course.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I feel, because I'm not in it for the credit, but it does feel good.
Yeah,
It does feel good that Tim Burchett did come on the show. He did talk. He talked to us for almost 45 minutes.
right.
Almost
It's
an
crazy.
hour.
If you
And
could
then
get
yeah,
that damn phone to work.
I know, damn. And I'm gonna try and get him back on again in the new year. But yeah, I mean, it was cool to see him speak on the floor about this. It was cool to see Senator Gillibrand and listen to her quotes about this.
Surreal.
It
Yeah.
was that month of November into December was awesome and terrifying all at the same time. Because
Yeah.
it was like, oh my God, we're only going to get this OAI MSG office. This is going to be a nightmare. But then again, why are we being so upset about it? It's another office. It's another
Yep.
thing that's looking at this topic. So for me, it's a good thing.
I
How
was
that,
one of those, Luis. I
yeah,
was
no,
one of those
at first I was
complaining.
like, oh, we gotta listen to Lou. We gotta listen to Christopher Mellon because these
Yep.
guys are coming from that office. And I understand that, how this office could undermine, how this office was looking to obfuscate, how this office could make the life difficult for the newer office, but they really can't do anything. Once you look into it, like there's no jurisdiction from the Department of Defense to what this bill is written. So there's no crossing the streams here. They can't do anything.
Mhm.
All they could really do is sort of steal the attention and the thunder away if anything comes out from, say, the new office. But I can't imagine, the
Well,
day the first report is due on October 31st, that there's anything the AOI MSG can do that's going to take away from the attention of that report.
no. And again, there's going to be people like Greenwald who is going to go through that report, whatever we get in the public realm, with a fine tooth comb. He's going to find names. He's going to find dates. He's going to file a million requests. And that's how we're going to get it. We're going to mine for data like we've been doing for a really long time. And I always hear this term like the UFO community will take those scraps, those breadcrumbs. And I don't think that's like a bad thing. Like we're
Right.
doing all we can to get the information we can. Do I wish we had more? Yeah, but thank God for people like Greenwald who will get that information for us. I mean, I just think it's awesome. So yeah, man, November was a crazy month for sure.
Yeah. No, we are very much dogs at the end of sitting by their masters, at a table waiting for something to fall off the table that we could eat. That's
Yep.
who we are. And John Greenwald is the dog who get up on the table and push some stuff off the table for the
The
rest of us to
prime
eat.
rib, baby. Yep.
But he'll take a couple bites himself first and then throw off some of the
Oh,
scraps for us down here.
of course.
But I mean, that's unfortunately, that's like where we're at. The only power we have, and we flexed it, is letting our representatives know that this is an important issue to us. And the thing that excites me, and I'm sure if you go on Senator Gillibrand's Twitter right now, I promise you, I haven't even looked, but I promise you the most popular tweet she's had in the last 6 months have been about this Gillibrand Amendment in the UAP office and getting it through. I mean, insanely more popular than any other thing she's talked about, which is it's like a double-edged sword. It's kind of sad, but it's also really cool, because there's other things that she's passionate about, especially when it comes to veteran healthcare and women, making sure that they have legal recourse anytime there's sexual abuses going on, things like that. And those are important things, without a doubt. But they're not getting as much attention or as much love or as much praise or as many shares or likes. And I promise you, I think letters are great. Phone calls are amazing. They actually work. We've gotten responses to all of these things. But I really think tweets are where it's at. Like, I really, because they can see how many people like it. They can see how many people retweet it. They have access to that Twitter account from their phone. Whereas a letter, your letter's going to go to her office. And you're right, she may not actually physically read it, but there's going to be an aide that reads it. And there's going to be, and if they get a couple of letters, she's going to know that people sent letters thanking her. And you're going to get a response from that. And that's a good thing. I mean, this is all good stuff. Totally. And because of this kind of stuff, we're going to get a new office. I think it's, and it also, like, a lot of, I guess the reason why I don't like taking a lot of credit for this, or any credit really, is because I know that there are a lot of people behind the scenes that have been working on this way before I did the Big Phone Home. And we know who this, I mean, Christopher Mellon and Lou Elizondo were talking about that. I listened to them for a year, do interview after interview after interview after interview. And every time they would say, we need your help. We need you to call. We need you to write. We need you to contact your local and state representatives. And it's not that it falls on deaf ears. It's just not very inspiring.
Yeah.
Like, how many people are you going to inspire at the end of one podcast when you say that? There's got to be something that galvanizes, that really inspires, because it's like, as we've learned, contacting your representatives is not difficult, but it's not easy either. Like, how to articulate yourself, what you're going to say, how you're going to do it, either through a phone call or an email. And those things need to be fine-tuned.
Yeah.
And then
there has to be an expediting process. It's just like the FOIA. I spent years doing the wrong thing and trying to get FOIA requests answered. And I'd done it wrong for so long until John Greenwald showed me how to actually do it and how to back them into a corner where they have to give you something. Legally, they have to give you something if you ask for the right thing. And I think it's the same with these politicians. As long as you're wording things properly, or, doing stuff like Sean Roush has done, of calling them all the time and knowing what to say, that's when they're going to pay attention.
Right.
They're not going to listen to a voicemail of someone saying, oh, Gillibrand, good job. Now tell us where the bodies are from Roswell. Like, she's not going to take shit like that seriously. Excuse me. But
especially if it's only one person.
Totally. But like you said, if thousands of people are calling her office, she has to acknowledge it. It's up to her how she decides to respond. But with that much, like you said, flooding in, everyone's going to be like, look, just say something so that we can stop getting these damn letters or something like that,
Right. No, I'm sure I would have loved to have been a fly on a wall in her office in the last month.
Oh my God.
And to see how many people were calling, texting, writing, tweeting, emailing that office, her office, encouraging her to make sure that she gets through. Same thing with Marco Rubio, and Heinrich and Gallego and Tim Burchett. Like, these are all, the political winds are changing right in front of our eyes, and it's really, really cool to see. Want to say hello to Flarius Kevin and Akashi Chris. Hi guys. Aaron Desario, welcome you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, Eric Weinstein also joined the Galileo project today.
I saw that.
Else we could talk about as well.
Yeah,
I kind of want to talk to Eric Weinstein.
I know, man. I've reached out to him a few times.
Yeah.
He's pretty receptive. It's just a matter of nailing him down to actually do it, just like a lot of these people. But
Yeah.
I have no doubt once he gets really into working with the Galileo project, he'll be just as easy as getting Avi Loeb back. Once they're in this, man, like we've got him. We've got
Yeah.
him. They're hooked.
Yeah. No, it was fun talking to Avi, and I can't wait to have him back. And I would love to have him with Eric. I think that would be a really killer conversation. But yeah, it's gonna be 2022 is gonna be insane.
It is.
Like 2021 was awesome.
Yeah. Can you
Awesome.
imagine like what we accomplished, or I shouldn't say we, but what the topic has accomplished in the past year in terms of a mainstream conversation, whether you like it or not, or agree with it or not, is it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get bigger. It might ebb and flow. There'll
Yeah.
be some months where we got to focus on other things in the world, as we should.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're not going to get that first report from this new office until 2023, if I'm correct.
Well, no, we get the first report on October 31st of next
Oh,
year.
wow. Okay. Okay.
So that's when we get the public will get its first glimpse into
Quarterly report or what have you.
into a I don't want to say a report,
What they call that other one, assessment or whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, October 31st is going to be the day we get to see something. I think June 24th, if I'm not mistaken, is when the office has to be created by, because assuming the president signs it on the 31st of December 2021, that means they have 180 days from that point to establish the office, give it a budget. Where is it going to be physically? Like, is it going to be in DC? Is it going to be in the Pentagon? Is it going to be, I've heard, possibly Colorado? I cannot wait to see what the budget on this office is going to be in this what they're going to call the new office. They still don't have a name for it. It's just referred to as the office right now.
I love that. Keep it. Just keep that.
Yeah, just keep the office.
I love that.
Well, I think here's the thing that
Steve Carell up in there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that kind of I don't want to say rubbed me the wrong way, but I was like, oh no, not another acronym. They want to, I think, steer away from the UAP acronym now. And
but they created it.
I know. I know. And we've done all of this work to get everybody to start saying UAP now. And now Congress and the Senate know what UAP means. And I still think outside of that, people are still very unfamiliar with what UAP means. Most of them just know UFO, civilians, that is. But now they're going to put a new acronym in there to emphasize the transmedium aspect of this phenomenon, which is like, yeah, okay, but do we need it? Can we just go back to UFO maybe? So that way it's just a little more eye-catching.
It's not going to go away, no matter what they rename it. Everyone knows they're talking about UFOs. I understand trying to destigmatize with different words and whatnot, but everyone knows what they're talking about. So we'll see.
Everyone in this community knows
in this community.
But when you say, if you said UAP task force to somebody,
they wouldn't know what I mean. Good point.
They would have no clue. But if you said UFO task force, they'd be like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
What's a UFO task force? What's that all about? G West with a $5 donation, because UFO gossip is great. Do either of you have a favorite Easter egg or breadcrumb or rumor from any of your UCR shows in 2021? I'd have to think about this. Gossip
is great.
Breadcrumb.
Easter egg from an episode that's already aired. Is that what you're G West is asking?
Yeah, I guess that's what he's asking. I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I think all of the Easter eggs have pretty much been revealed. I think if you asked me this in June, I might have said, "Oh,
it's a whole different story."
A whole different story. We've actually got some things that we can speculate about. Will we see this written into the new NDA? If so, what's it going to look like? I don't know. Yeah,
that's tough.
I was listening to actually John Ramirez today on Project Unity, which was just another wild interview. And we got to have him back on as well. And he was saying that he believes the next step is going to be congressional hearings. I don't
It's
think we're going to
possible.
get congressional hearings in 2022, but we might, maybe. I think 2022 is going to be established. 2023 for me, I think, is going to be the big year.
Yeah.
Like, because the office will have been established. There'll be a new NDAA. So maybe they'll be able to see what parts of this new office don't have enough teeth, or what parts aren't necessary, and reword it into the NDAA. So maybe the next year they have even more legislative power. And maybe even congressional hearings. Like, I wonder if that could be written into the NDAA, congressional UAP hearings. Think so? I don't think that the NDAA would have anything to do with that. But
that's tough.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I think 2023 is going to be insane. But we have to give them. I think the first half of this year is going to be boring.
Yeah, I've actually talked to a couple people about that. I'm like, all right, we're on this high going into December, which, that's kind of what we expect every December now. That's when the New York Times story broke. That's when this happened, that happened. And I have that feeling too, man. Like, going into the new year, I'm excited, but what I tell people is, like, don't worry. Just don't worry about what the government is doing. Like, they're going to do their thing, whether you like it or not, whether you see any of it or not. So do your own research, have your show 5 times a week, talk to people about everything under the sun when it comes to UFOs, whether it's an experience or a case history. Like, just remember that there's so much more to this topic than just what the US government thinks about it. Maybe next year we'll get some new offices in other countries. Maybe we'll hear more about China's AI programs to look into UAP. Like, we have to remember that just what the US is doing is not the entire picture, whether they want it to be or not. It's not. It's simply not. So, yeah.
Well, we're also going to have the James Webb Telescope, which
Exactly.
you're right, cognitive dissonance, that actually launches on Christmas Eve. So
hopefully.
I'm hoping, I don't know how long it will take for it to be operational and actually start taking some pictures.
Good
I would
question,
assume pretty quickly. I mean, within a week, I would think.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope. Who knows? Maybe we get some pictures in the new year from that telescope. But I mean, that could be huge if we find biosignatures or technosignatures out in other solar systems. That'll be an absolute game changer.
If, like, a week into this telescope being up there, we find it. Like, that would be like,
all right, go home, everybody. We got it. Yeah.
Aliens are done. Yeah. Like, move on.
They're real.
It's there.
They're an Alpha Centauri.
There's no questions after that. So just move on with your lives.
Yeah. Red Panda Koala says there'll be a 23-minute Dino Beaver video dropping in 2020.
Hey, man, we're getting season 3 of Skinwalker. So, I mean, that's something to look forward to if that's your thing. I'm excited. I thought it was really cool, the stuff Brandon was talking about on your show recently. Yeah, I'm hoping to actually get out there and meet Brandon this year as well. I've been talking to him a few times this past week. We're working with some of the same people on several different projects, and we made a plan to finally meet up. So maybe I'll be that Post Malone and finally be taking selfies on the ranch. I don't know, man. I don't want to be bringing home any hitchhikers, though. That's the thing.
I know, man. That's the same thing with me, dude. Like, I would love to go out there, but part of me kind of is a little terrified. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
it's
need
like wanting it, but then regretting it,
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed,
I don't know.
Man. Robert McHugh, $5 donation. Thank you guys so much for these, by the way. Could these visitors are coming back? Could they have been the visitors those before us talked about?
I like where he's going with that. I think this idea of, like, they were here before us even. We hear that a lot. And I've been digging a lot into that stuff. A lot of the, like, because we've heard the past couple of years, whether it's from Lou or other people saying like, no, we're saying non-human. We're not saying extraterrestrial. We're saying non-human, which could mean a lot of different things. And I do wonder, it's like in the X-Files. I think it was like the second episode where they said they've been here a long, long time, even before us. I love that. I love that idea, that concept, and there could be something to it.
Gary Voorhees says, "Sup, Ryan?
What's up, Gary? Gary,
well, I can't wait." And that's another thing. UAPX, like they're going to be coming out with some. I think. I mean, look,
they made some headlines recently.
They made some headlines, and it's hype, but I don't think they hype for just because.
It wasn't them. I can admit I was one of the people that published their press release as is verbatim. I didn't write a word of it. But as I promised Gary and the crew, I will always be here to help you guys any way I can. I think what you're doing is incredible, and they have an amazing team. So I put it on my Medium, and it actually got picked up by a couple like big blogs and stuff that completely took things out of context, put sensational headlines on it. So that was rough. It kind of got out there under the wrong pretenses. But I think
when
Gary's
I say hype,
done a good job of.
No, I what I mean is these are not the kinds of people that do a lot of hyping,
right?
Unless, of course, they've got something that they're truly excited about.
Exactly.
So come May, I think he said May, April, May, June, somewhere in that time frame, they're going to be coming out once that NDAA gets cleared from the film that they were working on. Which is interesting, and I think they also might be on the new season of Skinwalker, which would be interesting as well.
I can't confirm or deny that.
Yes. Well, neither could Gary, and neither could Brandon. But it sounds like that's where that's going. And Gary says April.
For those who are saying like, oh, another NDAA, another movie, like holding back the truth. That's not how this stuff works. You've had pardon, I don't remember his name, the producer of Skinwalker Ranch, TJ Allen. I should know that. He's a great guy. Right. People don't understand, like when people are fronting the funding for your research, you have to play by their rules. So it's not like it's not like Gary wants to keep this from the public, but in order to get the information out there in the most responsible way, he has to listen to the people who funded it.
But also, if he wants to keep the money that he got to fund that research and not get sued, he's got to follow the rules of the NDAA.
You need to keep those contacts and those resources. So yeah, for anyone who is giving them crap about that, like welcome to like the new age of research where TV are the people funding it. It's the same with me being on TV. Like if someone's going to put me on television and pay for me to go to effing Area 51 or Roswell, I'm going to do it because I wouldn't be able to do that on my own with my resources. So hell yeah, I'm going to use the crap out of those people and get what I want out of it. And they're going to get what they want.
And I think this is, Gary says you have to make good on your promises. I have got no doubt. I really don't. I mean, I'm gonna save a little bit of room for. I could be wrong, but I don't think this is gonna. I can't wait to see what they got. I really, really can't. They've also got a new website. Will be up this week, so there you go.
Ooh, sweet.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
No, I mean, UAPX, Galileo. There's a lot of stuff that we could look forward to outside of the purview of our federal government.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Yep.
So 2022 is going to be packed with science. I think science and the mainstream media are going to figure out and have a way to talk about this topic because in June when we get the new office and then in October when we get the report, and then whatever else is going to happen late next year, because that just seems to be the time when it happens. It's going to be a jam-packed year. Like if you thought this year was great, I think you're going to think next year is going to be just as good, if not better. So, I guess those.
What if we get a third office too, man? Like anything could happen. We have to keep that in mind. Like we might just say, like, let the government thing simmer on the side, but anything can happen. We have no idea what to expect because we sure as hell weren't expecting that 2017 article. I can tell you that much. So
I tell you what I'd love to see is a debate with like an Avi Loeb and a Neil deGrasse or not a debate, maybe just a discussion. I would love to. If there's one wish I had for 2022 is to flip Neil deGrasse Tyson's thought process on this. Just the way he thinks about it, just have the open mind, because you tout that you have an open mind, but it doesn't seem that way. At least not on at least not on this topic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ryan, are you ready to watch this Richard Hoffman?
My gosh, yes.
We've been
The
going
reason
for almost an hour.
I'm sorry,
this
man.
happens every time with this show, man. Every time I'm like, I'll make this super easy for myself. I'm not gonna do nothing. This topic's just too easy, too fun to talk about.
Oh yeah, and we don't like shutting up. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, that's my problem. All right, well, okay, so so we're gonna start this replay, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this first half of the BSing, the shooting the shit with Ryan Sprague, and just talking inside baseball. So let's get into this Richard Hoffman interview. It's 2 hours and 11 minutes. I'm probably not going to play the whole thing, but what I will do is put the link for it. If you guys haven't heard this whole discussion, I'm going to put the link for it in. Oopsies. There we go. I'm going to put the link for it here for you guys, and I'll post it up at the top of the chat, so you guys can watch at your own leisure. I'll still be here. I'm not sure if Ryan, if you're going to stick around. We'll be hanging out in the chat. We might pop in just in case something interesting is said. So enjoy, you guys. Here we go. Let's add this to the stream. So this is like, and this is also in June. So like, it's just funny.
Look at that old school logo.
Hello.
Old school. We got no logos. We got nothing.
Unidentified celebrity review will start just in a minute. I'd rather be squidding, and this is my favorite 2 hours of the day. A lot of people, they still don't know what to think about the recent UFO revelations. As a result, many don't think of it at all. I don't know what to think of it either, but like all of you, I think about it a lot. And that's what I really appreciate about these shows is all of you, this wonderful community of people. We got Dave Bradshaw, Jason Fry, Jedi Camper. It's a wonderful community of people, and you're all engaged and thinking and sharing your thoughts about the phenomena. Other communities, the scientific community, for example, isn't as open-minded. Over the weekend, I've been thinking about the classic tale of the boy who cried wolf. I think we've been taking away the wrong message here. Should we really be blaming the kid for giving off false warnings? Maybe he saw a dog that looked like a wolf. Maybe he did see a wolf all those times, but when the whole village started running over, it scared the pack away. Instead of shaming this kid for false alarms and blaming the eventual disaster on him, the village should investigate and alter their alerting mechanism as needed. Unfortunately, this fear of crying wolf is pervasive in society, and it extends to the scientific search for extraterrestrials. They're all afraid of crying alien, or even seriously considering the evidence that doesn't hold up to existing scientific norms. Things like Penrose's conformal cyclic cosmology, allowing signals from previous eons, messages encoded in quasi-crystals that are embedded in meteorites, odd radial circles in the sky, and potential messages with gravity waves from aliens. These are hardly taken seriously, and you can only find out about them on my channel, Rather Be Squidding. Check the Alien Signals playlist. And I joke, I'm certainly not the only one taking these things seriously, but I don't want to paint the whole scientific community with this same brush. For example, our guest today represents one of the shining corners of scientific community, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. We have Executive Board Member Rich Hoffman here today. He'll share some insight into how his organization investigates the scientifically taboo. So, keep those questions coming for him. I'll be recording them, and if we don't get them answered right at that moment, I'll bring them up at the end and, as time allows. We got 71 of you here. That's really, really great. Thank you. Thanks, Artemis, for coming out. Case for Infinity. Authorel Aura. Really appreciate it. I think it's 2 past the hour. I think it's getting to be that time. If you're joining us live, you probably already have subscribed and rung that bell, but hey, why don't you double check just to make sure? If you have the means, consider clicking on Luis's link tree and finding that Patreon link. That would really go a long way in ensuring that this show is here for this and many, many more miraculous Mondays to come. But now let's keep that live chat going. Your hosts of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Luis Jimenez and Michael Mataluni.
Oh, thank you very much, Rather, for that wonderful, warm, informative welcome. We always appreciate it. How was your weekend?
I had a great weekend. A little bit cloudy here, but ready for a great week of UFOlogy with all you.
I love how Rather he spent his weekend like thinking about the boy who cried wolf and the analogy with the UFOs. Like I love the fact that that's what you did this weekend. I really respect and appreciate that.
Hard to turn it off.
Yeah, indeed it is. Indeed it is. All right, Rather, we'll see you in a little bit. Good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary.
This is when we would have Rather leave the show and come back.
I was like, where did he go?
Why did I do that? I don't know. We were figuring out the show.
Like Rather
yeah, he had to take a breather after that incredible monologue.
Exactly.
We're gonna figure out a way to thank every single one of these Patreons. Check it out. It's coming soon. But we've gotten some really great donations on the Patreon. I don't want to shout out anybody individually because you know how I feel about extra access, but thank you to all the Patreons out there that have donated. Some people have literally started a legitimate bill for themselves. Go check out the legitimate bill tier in the Unidentified Celebrity Review Patreon. It's a lot of fun. So with that said, also want to remind you guys, we've got some great guests this week. On Wednesday, we're doing our Skinwalker review with Christina Gomez, Jazz Shaw, and UFO Jane. We might have Stephen Greenstreet stop by. We're still talking to him, figuring that out. And then on Friday, who do we have on Friday, Michael?
This Friday, we have John Greenwald.
John Greenwald. He just emailed us. So we're going to have John Greenwald on Friday. So definitely be here for that. Also, Friday at 4 o'clock, we've got Christina, or 5 o'clock. Christina Gomez is going to be shifting the paradigm. So check out her show at 5 o'clock as well. All right, Mikey.
I'm excited.
What are you drinking today? Well, are you're a little blurry? Is your camera okay?
That's what I keep hearing. It looks great on my end, but perhaps my internet. I've been having some Wi-Fi problems today, so that may be it. Worst case scenario, I might have to back out and come back in. We'll see.
Okay, worst case scenario. Okay, so I'm sorry, you were saying.
Well, I'm saying I'm freaking excited because we've got Richard Hoffman here today, and one of the things that I've been kind of annoyingly rampaging about on Twitter lately is how often we completely dismiss potential science because we call it fringe, and so. What one of the things that I'm passionate about is taking fringe topics, putting them in front of the scientific, rigorous process. And so I love the fact that Richard's here today, and I love the fact that this is exactly what they're doing with the UFO topic. So I'm stoked.
I love that half this audience is comparing this to Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I know. Should we be interjecting more? I'm so
awesome.
not that
really,
person.
so I can't
I'm
wait
the
to see
worst
what
for this.
The results of that were.
I do thank you, Rather. Now get out.
His highlights, things like that. So what I'll do, Michael, is let me I'm gonna let you back out, dude, just because I want your camera to be nice. So back out, come back in. Yeah. I'm gonna introduce Mr. Hoffman while you do that.
Thing.
And then let's get this thing started.
What happened?
All right, so Rich Hoffman has a BA in organizational communications from Wright State University. He's an information technology consultant and strategist. He's worked as a defense contractor for over 20 years, working primarily on Army Materiel Command HQ with a variety of companies. Currently, Mr. Hoffman works as an enterprise architect at Redstone Arsenal and the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He has over 54 years of experience in investigating and researching the UFO subject. Mr. Hoffman has also serves as a director of investigations, STAR team manager, and director at strategic projects, and as well as the state director at MUFON, and worked with numerous organizations, and is now a what would be your official title there at the SCU, Mr. Hoffman?
Well, I'm an executive board officer.
Executive board officer. So let's, Michael, your camera looks way better. Welcome back.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it looks really good now.
It's amazing what happens when you just back out and come back in. Usually things work right up. Introduce Mr. Hoffman. It's perfect timing because I just finished that. So let's start, Richard, because I know we have, and do you prefer Rich or Richard?
I like Rich.
Rich, okay.
Rich, yeah.
Okay, all right. I just
Thanks.
think, when I talk to like someone who's almost a professor, I almost feel like, I want to be as respectful as possible. Okay, so Rich, how was...
And guys, by the way, this is not a live interview. This is a replay. We're doing the top 10 of 2021, top 10 interviews. And Richard Hoffman is number 10. So
tell me about it. You look relaxed.
So
There's
enjoy.
no bow tie today.
Well,
So-
exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to comment that I felt underdressed, but at least I just spent the whole weekend in a bow tie.
There you go.
I'm looking to relax now afterwards. So,
Yeah. No, don't be sorry. You've got our permission to relax. You had a long weekend. I mean, normally Mondays are safe for bow ties, but hey, today's your weekend, so relax and enjoy. We're happy you're here.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you at least got the bop in. And by the way, you can see him at any time for the next 3 months. You can anytime you want to go back in, you can see all the presentations. So make it work for you.
That's definitely something I'm definitely going to do. Is it because I like to catch up? Well, I have to. I just don't have options. My business schedule is so crazy, like catching up on these long form conversations. I love them, but it's tough. So I'm glad that you guys have the opportunity within that software that you guys set up to go back and listen to those. That's something I wanted to bring up. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece of software. In fact, I got nothing but kudos on that whole thing. I think a lot of people expected it was going to be something like a Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's way different than that.
It's better.
It's got all the features that you would hope to have, like a question and answer thing next to the presenter. It's got polls that you can have and conduct. It also has lots of collaboration areas.
It was cool. It was very cool.
Yeah, I could have a virtual meetup with you, and we could have, even though we weren't there, and then had a networking feature that allowed people like this to see each other on the screen and to talk, and then we shifted to another table, and then 15 minutes later we shifted again, and it was really nice. And let me tell you, I got so many incredible compliments about the whole weekend that everybody was saying it was phenomenal, and it exceeded their expectations, and where can you go to have that kind of thing, happen for I think it was like $63 a month, or for $63 to be able to come to it.
Yeah.
I mean, conferences, as you are, $300, if you want to go in person. But
yeah. So
it had a lot of nice features. Again, people could download the presentations. They could take a look at them. It had, they can now take a look at them because all the sessions are recorded. So HUVA is the name of the tool, and in fact, I got it told to me that it was used for the International UFO Congress that Alejandro Rojas has, and so he shared that with me, and we looked at different tools and we set it up, and it was just incredible. But more importantly, it's because I've been working on this for like 6 months to be able to set this up, and there are 6 individual tools that I had to integrate to be able to make it work seamlessly, and so that was a bit of a challenge. That's why I've got additional gray hairs and and everything else. But
well, it's a silver fox. You're a silver fox.
No kidding. But it turned out really, really well. And like I said, I'm getting people just hitting me up with like an awesome conference, great conference. The presentations or the presenters, we had Hal Putoff as our opening. A lot of people just absolutely love Hal, and I do too. And he did a fabulous opening on looking at shifting from an intelligence problem with this thing to a scientific tack on that, and how do we do that?
Yeah.
And we had Dr. Matthew Strategist who talked about dark matter and UAPs. We had Robert Powell talking about a statistical way of dealing with UFO reports and how we can weed out the things that we really don't want, that are IFOs, if you would.
Well, that's the one I caught was Robert Powell's conference, and I really loved the actual counts relative. I almost thought of it as the Electoral College of UAP sightings. You would think that it's California and the big states that would have the most UAP sightings, but in fact, it's not even new. What was it? It was like, I know Maine was one of them. Like Arkansas was one of them. Like these states in the middle. But the one that was interesting about the Arkansas group of statings was, well, there was a very, very secretive Air Force base there where they do fly a lot of not experimental aircraft, but very triangular looking aircraft. And so, and their flight pattern is above, their test flight patterns is above those 4 states. So it makes sense that they would get a lot more of those kind of sightings. So that was really cool. It was just good data, a lot of good data.
Yep. And man, I tell you, it's just everybody was like, loving all the science. Most of these guys were PhDs.
Yeah.
A number of them were PhDs, and so you almost like I had a college lesson, if you would, in some aspect of this. And so it was very thrilling from that standpoint. But let me tell you, I've been like looking, because I couldn't focus on all the stuff that was on the collaboration. Right. Because it was so focused on controlling the time and everything else.
Right.
That I'm starting to now go back and look at all the conversations. And wow, some of the conversations were extremely deep and very well done. And then we had also 2 tools that we featured: Skyhub's tool, as well as the UFO DAP that Ron Ulch has got. And again, it was neat to be able to see how we're advancing the technology to be able to go out and collect the data that we need, and a whole lot of data, and bring it back in these tools. And so I'm encouraged by even that development that's going on. And I think a lot of other people were as well.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. We just got $100 donation. I had to call it out. That's incredible. So starting the interview off right, where's your tie, Rich? My question is, that's okay. It's okay. If you didn't catch the beginning, he's had a long weekend. He's been in a tie all weekend, so he's doing the easy route today. So we're not busting too many chops. But his question is, what part / how much of the defense industrial complex, Lockheed, Raytheon, BAE, etc., do you think is responsible for the slow roll to disclosure? God, thank you for that $100 question. This is one of our new Patreons. So thank you. Damn, that's amazing.
Well, I'm going to try and see if I can give it a $100 response.
Yeah, please, Mr. Hoffman, please.
So anyway, going back, and let me clarify that I catch hell if I don't wear my bow ties. I mean, let me tell you, I really do. In fact, people say I'm abducted if I don't wear.
You know what it is? Well, it's probably an evil version of yourself. Instead of a goatee, it's the bow tie. So maybe we're talking to the evil version of Rich Hoffman right now. But hey, it's your trademark. It's what people love to see on you. So that's cool.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'll have to have my wife go back and get the bow tie, and I'll put it on over. But anyway, let me go back to talking about that, because that's an excellent question. It really is. It is a $100 question. So I'm a defense contractor. Okay, so consequently, I work for Army Materiel Command, and I do know that in my contractor role with them for the last 26 years that I've been with them, as a contractor, you come into the organization and you're quasi-government, if you would,
Yeah.
You kind of like get to be involved in meetings and things like that, talking about the DoD problems, and the Army's, in my case, the Army's problems and stuff like that. And so I work in the IT world and stuff like that from a strategic standpoint as well, putting together strategic level documents on things like wireless and some other things. But let me clarify that, that role, you kind of get tied down into it from the standpoint you have to sign non-disclosure agreements, and and I've got access to like classified systems, so then I'm constricted in terms of agreements that I have to sign on that, and those are lifetime types of things. And so but what I'm trying to tell you is, like, in those worlds like Lockheed, Raytheon, and BAE, and on all those other ones that are working out there, they're not sitting there with the government necessarily. They're out there creating stuff. They're out there experimenting and on the edge of development.
Right.
And one of the things that I've always suspected, of course, I'm in meetings, government meetings all the time, so I get to hear government discussions, right? So, but if you're working out in these companies, you're a great place to hide things, because I can't send you a FOIA, and that's shielded by the FOIA rules. And let me give you an example of that. When we did the Aguadilla study in Puerto Rico, okay, let me give that as an example. The control tower, you would think, well, I'd be able to FOIA them. Well, guess what? The FAA contracts with a company in Tennessee to provide the control tower stuff. So when you go out and you put a FOIA request into them, guess what? They're not subject to the FOIA. So you want to get the control tower people to validate what you said, what they had with the conversation with the pilot, and you can't get it, And
Right.
so it's a great place to hide things. It's a great place to shield that, and it allows government people to be able to say, well, I don't know anything about it,
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that why we don't have the audio for that Aguadilla footage? Because the other half doesn't give the. I mean, I don't remember there being audio with that footage. Was there?
No, there wasn't any audio with that. So I mean,
but is it because the one half of the communications was privately owned and you weren't allowed to post it, basically?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for communications between the tower and the pilot, and you can't get it.
Wow, that's
what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So there's a very strong potential that if you look at it over the years, it's a great place to be able to move the stuff to these corporations, and that makes perfect sense as well. Let me put it back to you another way.
Yeah.
If I've got some real hot technology that I got from some craft or something, or some great stuff, who's going to develop that? Well, guess what? It's going to be those like companies like Lockheed, Raytheon, and everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're a great place to send information to, because they're going to help put it into practice.
Yeah.
In other words, you get what I'm saying. So, like, let me give another example. So within the government, like when I was dealing with Blue Book people up in Dayton, Ohio, we had the Foreign Technology Division that was up there, right? So that's where the R&D was. So certain things would be sent to that R&D shop, and then they would do the breaking it apart to see how it worked, and how it flew and everything else, right? And so we can take that intellect and be able to apply it to any future designs that we wanted to develop, right?
Right.
And if you think about it, the memory metal from Roswell, send it up the right path, they would take it over to Battelle Memorial Institute, a great place to shield it. And Battelle Memorial Institute now would have that ability. And if you look at the records on things like shaped memory alloys, you'll find out that that's the bendable metal that we're actually now using. Well, guess what? That came out of Battelle, and Battelle also fed it to like other labs and everything else. So it's a great place, again, to hide things that you don't want discovered, and those corporations are set up to be able to leverage that technology in the right way, right?
As having been,
yeah, sorry, go, Mike.
Well, no, I was going to say, having been in this industry for over 20 years, I mean, you've contracted with, an extraordinary amount of companies and directly with the U.S. government. I'm curious, what specifically, like, what rumors have you heard, or what whispers really inspired you to start digging deeply into this potential for materials within these organizations? Like, what inspired you to start looking closely at it?
Well, let me tell you, I guess, it's an interesting situation to be, number one, in the DoD, and you have a cube there, and my little cube is decorated in UFO stuff. And so guess what? I got people that walk up to me and say, hey, let's have a private conversation, right? Because nobody wants to go up and say, hi, let me tell you, tell the world about it, right? But they'll have a private conversation. So you hear private conversations. Just like I did when I actually gave a presentation out at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the Foreign Technology Division area back when I was younger, and I gave this lecture to all these scientists, and I said I had maybe 30 or 40 people in the room, and I said, how many of you have ever witnessed a UFO? And I think one nervous hand went up, and I saw a light once, and that was it. Well, guess what? When the break came and afterward, I was pummeled with everybody walking up to me and telling me their stories, right?
Right.
And one guy came up and said that my job was to go out and fly my aircraft. It had a gun camera on the front of it and try to see if I could film them. And then when I landed, they came and they took my film away, and then I ended up signing I wouldn't talk about it and everything else, right? So you hear that kind of a conversation with these guys, and they're very serious about it. That's what his job was, to do. Right. And so what I'm trying to tell you is I've heard many stories like that from other military members, but they won't come out, and they're afraid of their careers. They're afraid of the stigma. They're afraid of the pushback. So that's the big challenge we've got, even with the Navy. And it's going to take a while before that culture changes to where you can get some sort of reporting in, right? Anyway.
Yeah. Man, that was almost like a two-part question. I wanted to go back to something you said earlier, and that was, do you think there should be a timeline on, and I'm going to get to another donation question here in a second, this one here in a second. Do you think there should be a timeline on, say, where we can FOIA a private company on technology, say, made 30, 40 years ago? Should we have access to those, since we gave a lot of these companies tax dollars to develop these technologies? Shouldn't we have access to the things that are no longer classified? I don't obviously we can't have access to the newest and coolest stuff, but maybe some Cold War tech or metals or things like that they maybe develop.
Well, you have to understand that a lot of the development that's going on in these companies, they don't want shared with other companies. They're competing with them, right?
Right.
I mean, so everybody's competing. So, if you think that first off, FOIAs don't apply to the industry.
Right.
They don't apply to them. So you can't send them a FOIA.
Well, no, I'm saying something along those lines. I don't mean a FOIA specifically, but I mean, we would have to have some sort of law that says that the federal government or somebody else can go in and ask a corporation to give up all their trade secrets, and that's you get what I'm saying, right? No, I get what you're saying. I'm just thinking, are they trade secrets if they're 50 years old?
Well, sure they are. I mean, there's technology that they came. I mean, they're still in development 50 years ago. I mean, if you look at the aircraft designs it takes us 25 to almost 50 years to be able to see the new designs that were developed 25 years ago, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like it's an immediate thing that they're out there and up and running. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that those engineering things that they spent money on to develop and stuff like that may still apply to the current designs that they're coming up with, and they don't want to share that. Now, again, I'll give you an example. Let's go back to the Aguadilla case, right?
Right.
So we wanted to know what that camera was on the bottom of that Dash 8 aircraft that was flying in Puerto Rico, right? We wanted to know specifically what that camera was so we could understand what we were looking at in the video. Make sense, right? Yeah. It was the camera that took it. Let's find out what we can. So I did the proverbial look. I found out it was an L3 Westcam camera, and I think it was an MX-15 or something like that. Anyway, so I called up L3, and I started to go out from there, and I tried to get a hold of people that would be able to allow me to ask them some crude questions that our scientific team had come up with that we'd like to know, right? Such as, what some very minute details about the camera's capabilities, the settings on it, and everything else, right? Well, I mean, we were just completely brushed off, and they, we're not going to give you anything. And so I mean, there's, again, trying to be able to get those level of details. And to them, it was probably like, well, who are you guys?
Right.
You could be the Russians for all we know. I mean, you could be the Chinese. I'm not going to give you that stuff. And by the way, we developed this. We don't want you to know it, right? So there you go. And so that's the problem you run into with the corporations. Would I like to see that openness, especially around this equation? I love it, because I've been at this for like 57 years, by the way, not 54, 57 years. And I still haven't got that kind of level of detail, and we have to go out and dig it ourselves as much as we can, right?
Are there any sort of laws that could be put in place? Because obviously we have to protect a corporation's ability to protect their intellectual property. But have you thought about this idea of what we should be pushing Congress to do in order to loosen up some of these capabilities so that we can access this information? I mean, there's got to be a way to think about this critically, create policy that actually allows for some of the at least the data that can be studied to come out. Like, have you thought about this from a policy position?
Well, I probably have thought about it many times over the course of the years, but I never really formulated a policy. But I mean, right. It is one of those conversations that at the headshed level they ought to have, especially since we're getting the conversation level now, right? Right. So I mean, if we're really getting those the Senate Select Committee members seeing incredible videos right now, they ought to be saying, well, wait a minute, this is serious stuff, and I've never seen a video quite like that of an object coming out of the water or whatever they're going to see, right? That if they see that, then we need to take action on that. And oh, by the way, you might want to put into some sort of here's what it would be. It would be you change the code of federal regulations to where you'd specify that contractors would then have to supply certain pieces of information. And
they're getting public. I mean, this is public funding. These are taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, right? Well, I understand that. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that it's one of those things that's bound up in things like contracts, and those contracts have certain set conditions in them and restrictions, by the way. And so a lot of companies are bound by those contracts that they have with that, and that's how they continue to work. And then plus, there is that whole national security thing, which you have to be concerned about. Right?
So basically, what you're saying is it's up to us. we're probably not going to get it from any contractor or any sort of government entity that's tied to any contractors because they don't share stuff. That's a bummer. There is a question from Zofa. She donated, or he donated a $20 pound. So thank you so much for the donation. And they say, thanks for your work, Rich. Simulations show dust in a plasma can form structures, and recently bacteria were discovered that feed directly on electricity. In your opinion, could this explain any of the UAPs we've been seeing? We got commercials.
Well, I mean, first off, let me clarify that the UFO or UAP phenomenon, right, is a very broad phenomenon. And what I'm saying to you is we haven't really necked down that whole area into what all is there. And let me give you an example again, what I'm trying to say. Okay, there's the Tic-Tac thing, which you already know, right? It's like, it looks like a physical thing, it's real, it's there, and it's performing incredibly, right? And then you have other people reporting other things that are called UFOs, which are basically a natural phenomena. And I've been investigating that. It's called Earth lights. And what that amounts to is there's a ball of gas that's created, and it lights up, and it moves against the wind, and it can go moving at 20 miles an hour in a direction or something like that. And like an hour from here is a place where since 1973, a lot of people were seeing these things called spook lights, right?
Yeah.
Well, those are objects that also get reported as UFOs. Okay, and then think about it. You also have classified equipment that's flying up in the air that people see, and they call it UFOs. And it's very rare that you can ever get those explained, because that would mean that the government would have to say, well, yeah, we had a classified flight.
Right.
Okay, so my point to you is that if you take a look at the statistics and broke this whole thing, there's a whole bunch of knowns, things that we can identify, which are planets, birds, and you name it that we can identify, right? And then there's this whole other thing that's called unknowns that we've got. And in the unknown bat, we can break those apart into some are classified missions, some are experimental aircraft, some, and I'm necking it down a little bit as a time, right? And so there's still a subset there of objects that are legitimate that we see. And so going back to the point where some of these could be, objects that we just don't know yet. And science has, I mean, it's only a few years ago, or maybe like a decade ago, that we discovered that there's a phenomenon called sprites at the top of clouds. I mean, how long have those been around? Well, they've been around forever, but we just now learned about them, right? So my point is that there's science hasn't even identified what these balls of light are about. I know chemically what they're made of: nitrogen, oxygen. There are also some sulfur in them, and there's also like yttrium or some scandium and a little bit of iron.
Can I ask you what's the height range that those appear at?
Well, first off, they're about 8 foot in diameter, and they can go up to about possibly 10,000 feet.
Wow, for all the way from sea level to 10,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that can explain a lot of stuff, because that when you say sulfur, that's something that people describe smelling sometimes when they get close to one of these things.
And so if you take a look at that, in Vietnam, a lot of these guys that were over there saw these balls of light, and they could actually smell the sulfur.
Wow.
Okay. And there's another interesting feature about those balls of light that I'm talking about and we were trying to study it because we had drones and everything else out there, but we had heard about it before, because this is a worldwide phenomenon, by the way.
Right.
You have the situation where, dig this, I'm standing on one side and I see the light from it, and somebody's on the other side and they can't see it at all.
Oh,
And so it's almost like the photons, if you would, coming off of that light is only going in one direction. And so it's like, unidirectional as opposed to omnidirectional. And so you had also, even in Missouri in 1973, in Piedmont, Missouri, you had a situation where they were seeing it on the ground, but the guy flying over the plane couldn't see it from above. So, so again, you have that kind of strange, odd kind of relationship with that phenomena. So there are a lot of other things out there that get misidentified, and it doesn't mean necessarily that all these are like a hard craft, if you would, like the Tic-Tac or something.
Right, or nuts and bolts,
Yeah, more like the nuts and bolts. Go ahead.
So what are your thoughts, Richard? I mean, we talk about this on the show all the time. We talk about this diamond in the rough idea and how 99.9% probably of everything that we assume is unidentified is probably identifiable. We just don't have enough information. And obviously the other 0.1% would be identifiable if we knew it. But from that diamond in the rough, that 0.1%, do you think there are, what are your thoughts on interdimensional, extraterrestrial, breakaway civilization? To what degree and hypothesis do you give merit to this diamond in the rough idea of extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, or breakaway civilization?
Okay. So let me make one additional point, and I'll come back to that. And that is because you just said something about, well, we can explain 90%, 99% of the things. Those are the things that are reported.
Right.
And let me tell you, the majority of things that are seen are not reported.
Right.
Nobody is talking about them, and they don't get reported. And let me tell you, I got that from every lecture that I practically have given, where people will tell, just like I just cut through telling you about that right pat thing. Well, nobody in the room reported that. And other people that I talk with, how many people have seen something? They raise their hand. I said, how many reported it? None of them. So let me go back to the fact that there may be a lot more cases, and also stress that the stranger the case gets, the less likely that I'm going to tell you about it.
Right.
What?
Especially if you're military.
Yeah. Okay. So there are a lot of sightings out there. And if we don't get them reported and we don't investigate them, we're not going to know what the heck's going on, right?
Yeah.
So now, let's come back to your question, and I hope that I wanted to make that point to you, Mike.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Keep that in mind, right? The majority of people are not talking about this stuff. In fact, they're it's going to be hard pressed to be able to get them. So what do I think about all this discussion about breakaway civilizations and what do I think about, what was that again? I'm sorry.
Extraterrestrial, interdimensional. Like, what are your thoughts on if we're actually being visited? What is your consideration for that when you really look at
that diamond in the rough?
For that diamond in the rough, the Tic-Tac or these sorts of things. Where do you think they're coming from? What sort of hypothesis would you make?
Well, I tend to be one of these people that you know, if I try to make sense out of my 57 years with this thing, I'm trying to make sense. You know, I kind of like look for, I try to do this because I'm very strategic thinking. I look at the big picture. What's the big picture here? What's the big picture is that seemingly like that these objects have a tendency to want to spend time with the military, number one. Number two, that they've always been observed around, in, or near water, which to me is a very important thing. So military, obviously nukes is a concern and stuff like that, as well as, you know, the water connection. And then if you try to make sense about this thing, it's like, you know, well, they're here and a lot of people see them. And this goes back to what Dr. Hynek said. And I met Hynek back when he was in Dayton, Ohio at Project Blue Book. But they were called a space-time singularity, which meant that it seemed as though that the objects were there for the moment. You got to see it. And when it went away from you, where did it go? Did that object, like an aircraft, land somewhere? Did it go off somewhere else? And did somebody else see it along the trajectory, like an aircraft or a plane? I can watch a plane go across the United States, right? You know what I mean? I can do that. But here's an object that goes, it's there for you, and it's like literally gone. Where did it go? So, you know, I mean, okay, that being the case, then you have this other kind of strange stuff that goes on in relationship to that, which, you know, you could go off on the deep end with this, but there's everything from the animal mutilation cases where there's like lights that people see that around that. You've got odd kinds of other things that are going on, and it's hard to figure that out. Then, you know, whether or not you really want to consider it, you know, if you took a look at the 95,000 level ceiling of the abduction phenomena or the experiencer phenomena, you'd find out that there's basically either they want you to believe that they're here and they're conducting some sort of genetic experiments on people, or collecting genes or sperm or something of that nature. And then here I am I'm in Dayton, Ohio, and I was on TV up there a lot, and I got called by the producer at the station, and he says, "Hey, by the way, there's somebody here that wants to meet you that's from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base." I said, "Really? Okay, well, no problem." And so he arranged it so we could meet in a little private glass enclosed room, and the two of us could be together. It turned out to be the chief of Aeromed research at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so I said, you know, just out of curiosity, why are we here? What do you want to talk about? And he proceeds to tell me that he has a team of scientists that have been looking at that we've been exchanging information with the Russian cosmonauts, as well as our astronauts, and they're doing blood sample studies and studies like that. And he said, well, guess what? Our team of scientists project that if we lived in space for 2 generations, we would look like the little guys that are being reported in the craft.
Mm. 2 generations.
Said, yeah, within 2 generations, we would look like them.
Wow.
And I don't know. Again, wasn't a part of the research, but these are published papers, by the way. And so the bottom line was that what he was trying to convey to me there was that, guess what? They're possibly us from the future. And so
I keep hearing that. That theory, yeah. Or not even so much from the future. They're from every time. They're from the past. They're from the future. There is no time. Their time is not a thing for them. It's not a dimension. It's just it's a sandbox.
And so what's really intriguing is, like we had Dr. Michael Masters, who was at the conference this week. And if you look at Michael Masters, I mean, his whole hypothesis is that we are progressing. If you look at our evolutionary history, that we are basically evolving into beings that look like those beings. And then he even goes to the point of saying that, let's at some point, if you look at how we're interbreeding with it used to be that, like the people in Europe were like all next to each other and they interbred. And there's like a little bit of incest that goes on in the sense that the gene pool is getting merged and consolidated. And then we had our gene pool over here, and then Australia had their gene pool. Well, because we're moving around, now we're making that, and we're all becoming, down to a smaller gene pool. And the concept there is that over a period of time, that maybe that gene pool gets so, convoluted or compressed, if you would, or he had another term for it. I'm not thinking of it right now, but there isn't a whole lot of diversity there. And we've had multiple levels of incest, if you would, going on with the gene pool, right?
Right.
And so what he's saying is that, potentially they could be coming back and collecting genes to be able to use and to create that diversity, if you would, back in whatever their time was, or with them.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
So I'm trying to give you, this is all speculation.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, it's all.
Well, no, but I only ask because
it's for me to make sense of it,
Right.
Right.
Well, and it's also for science to make hypotheses, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so I think that's why I asked you, because you have such a rich history with this, and I think you do.
That's a good
Sorry.
No, it's a rich history. It is rich.
Yeah. So real quick, let's reset the room, Michael. Let everybody know what's going down on Singularity Lab on Tuesday and what's going on the channel Wednesday and Friday. And also, we don't have a show on Thursday. Just let the folks know about that as well.
Indeed. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you again, Richard, for being here. You're not going anywhere yet. You're sticking around with us. We got a few more minutes. We're going to get every ounce of your knowledge out of you before you leave.
Okay.
But I did want to say quickly, tomorrow, for those of you who are subscribed to the Singularity Lab, and if you're not, make sure you click my link tree below so you can follow us over there. But we're going to be talking about drone technology and how to identify drones versus potential UFOs. So this is an incredibly important topic based on what Rich has been talking about here as well, is so many things can be identified, but we need the knowledge to be able to do so. So understanding the difference between drones and potential UFOs, I think, is a very important topic. And we've got Jerry McGowan, who is an expert on this topic, joining us to discuss that. For those of you who just
also a member of the SCU. Jeremy
who is
McGowan.
also a member of the SCU. Exactly.
Yeah, we always forget that, but he is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. For those of you just joining us today, we've got Rich Hoffman right here. He's a BA in Organizational Communications from Wright State University. He's an information tech consultant and strategist. He's worked as a defense contractor for over 20 years, working primarily for the Army Materiel Command HQ with a variety of companies. And now he's with the SCU as a director of the board. So welcome, Rich, and thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, by all means. And great questions, by the way.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple more. So going back to the FOIA discussion that we were having before, we had another $50 donation from MP, and he's donated another $50 question here. So he's put $200 in the chat tonight, man. You are a monster. I know you've signed up for the Patreon, but maybe you might have the guts. I don't know. Just check with yourself one more time. You might. So the question is, so you're saying that FOIA requests need to be applied to the contractors before we gain anything beyond a reasonable doubt. Fantastic response. Thanks, guys. I think he was responding to your earlier response.
Yeah, I think I would restate that again, that's, if you look at where a lot of the good stuff is, I think it's in the contractor world and the industry world. And I think that they're experimenting and, with probably incredible designs that are way out there that we just don't know about. I mean, like going back to Ben Rich's at Lockheed Martin saying we could probably take ET home, So, I mean, I think that potentially, you could say that very much so, that we're looking at right now at very advanced kind of directed energy kind of weapons. We're looking at utilizing concepts like you wouldn't believe in terms of just the laws of quantum mechanics and stuff like that. Think about it. We're getting into quantum computing. We're getting into AI and all this other stuff. So it's going to be incredible to see what happens over the next even 20 years or 50 years out. But And then if you look at the development we've got of our weapons and the material science, I mean, it's just phenomenal. I mean, we're pretty smart people, by the way, guys. But I mean,
well, and we keep evolving, and that's the reason we started the Singularity Lab show, because not only do we have this UAP UFO phenomenon, but we have the scientific breakthroughs, the technological breakthroughs that's leading towards a technological singularity, and scientists are even able now to start deducing that time travel both forward and backward is possible. And so it's like, we've got to expand and broaden our ideas about this entire phenomenon and process, right?
Well, without a doubt. And one thing that came clear out of the conference that we had just yesterday was the fact that there's a lot we just don't understand at all. I mean, Dr. Matthew Strategist talked about it. Okay, so dig this. I mean, the fact that if you take and he had a big pie chart where he showed, for example, 67% of the known universe is dark energy.
Right.
67% of it is dark energy. Right? And then dark matter was like something like, I can't remember the exact number, it was like something like 30%, right? Or something like that. And then you get down to the 5% of it, and that's not, there's a part of that that doesn't even relate to what we know as the physical universe that we understand. And we were like about 1% of the entire universe is the stuff that we know about. And we also talked about the fact, could these objects have been built, if you would, using dark matter or dark energy or something of that nature? Is that the propulsion system? And let me tell you, we don't know. We don't know. And so consequently, we're pretty smart, but yet at the same time, we're pretty stupid or ignorant. I mean, that's a better way of saying it, but we're pretty ignorant of a lot of things that we know of. So to say that I can't do time travel, I'm sorry. Spend a little bit more time and you'll figure it out. Maybe 100 years from now, maybe 200 years, maybe even 1,000 years from now that we'll figure that out. So, I mean,
are you familiar with 0-point energy? Have you heard of this concept?
Yeah. In fact, again, we talked about that yesterday, and that is in essence dark energy.
Right.
Dark energy is getting down to that 0-point energy you're talking about. It uses the same kind of principle.
So NP's last question was, and I think this is in regards to the hypothetical we were giving. He says, are you saying we identified future, quote, us, the fundamental force that drives every religion in recorded history, Anunnaki to Catholicism? If so, I kind of agree, LOL.
Well, I mean, that's what Dr. Michael Masters' hypothesis is that he's worked with. And by the way, it's testable and it's falsifiable. You know how? All you have to do is just wait it out, and it'll prove that that's going to happen or not, right? So it's a hypothesis that is testable. You can put it through the rigor of science and have it work for you, and you can prove that it's true or it's not true, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of waiting through time before that. But yes, I mean, conceivably, and I'm not, and even Dr. Matthews says the same thing. That doesn't mean that every aspect of the phenomena has to be that. There could be multiple of these kind of situations taking place. In other words, you could have interdimensional craft, same time you could have time travel craft, you could have other kinds of things going on. But until you can work to be able to eliminate some of these hypotheses and prove them to be true or whatever like that, we're stuck with all these big guesses, right?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. I feel like Rich Hoffman's having a good time when he says, dig this.
I know. This is a great conversation, Rich. We really appreciate you.
Let me ask you this. This is an interesting question I have. At this conference over the weekend, what acronym were people using? UAP or UFO? Did you notice one more? Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting to know.
Yeah, no, and we even started off the conference talking about that. I mean, we were saying that we're generically all using UAP, and we're using it in the context of it being that they're trans-medium, that they can go into the water, they can be up in the air, they can be up in space. And so we all agreed that was going to be the UAP term for the presentation. Term. Where we still struggle is when we talk about USOs. A lot of people just want to keep using that term as well as the UFO. And
Right. Well, I'm just wondering. I'm curious to know if, from a marketing standpoint, like I know UAP is sort of the back term, the back term acronym that government officials and scientists are using, but it seems like we're missing an opportunity here, because if I go to the most remote island on the planet and I say UAP, nothing. If I go to that same island, I say UFO, I'm probably going to get a response out of them. So that's why that would be my only sort of defense of UFO. Other than that, I completely understand it. But in most cases, I just use both. So that way one is correlated with the other and there's no confusion.
Sure. And where we struggle, and this is, even with me, it's like, well, let's see, if the object was in the water the whole time, then it's going to be a USO, right?
Right.
We don't call it a UFO because it's not flying, right?
Right.
It's swimming. Or
right. Right.
Anyway, if I put it in space, is it really flying? No, it's not really a flying, and that doesn't fly. Right. And so we struggled with that even in SCU. I said, how do we get to this point where we can use like one term that works? And so when we refer to unidentified aerial phenomena, it's not what we use. We use unidentified aerospace phenomena. And we do that from the standpoint that it is air and space, that's aerospace. Right. But at the same time, if you talk to the Navy personnel, you also get them talking about the aerospace industry, because guess what? They launch from underneath the water, they launch missiles and stuff like that, so they are underwater, right, submerged. Yep. And they'll use the term as well and apply aerospace. So
I like that one.
So we've chosen that one just to so we can kind of like eliminate that problem you run into with the term. I wish that there were a better term. I mean, maybe it would be unidentified transmedium objects or something like that.
That's what I was just thinking, UTP, or UT, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question for you regarding the mainstream media narrative. Now that we see all of this picking up and it's on fire across the media, do you have concerns about the narrative being boiled down into something that fits a particular perspective or intention? I guess to further say, for example, people who have now heard David Fravor and Alex Dietrich's story will say Tic-Tac, and like people are like starting to pick that up. Like you say Tic-Tac, it's almost like in fashion to say Tic-Tac now.
Yeah, it's a problem,
right? Yeah.
Yes,
it's okay. So you do consider it a problem?
Well, I consider it a problem. So, like, let me point out to you that in the late 1800s, you had the airships, right? They were called airships, right? And then you come along during World War II, and then suddenly they're all Foo Fighters. And then you get into the flying saucers. That's flying saucers. That's what they are. And then you get into this change of vernacular to where a lot of people were talking about orbs. Everything is an orb. I saw an orb, and everybody sees orbs. And then you suddenly get into it's all triangles, or then you go beyond that, and it's suddenly now all Tic-Tacs. And so if you look at this from a cultural standpoint, and this is a very interesting study for sociologists and some others to look at it from a cultural standpoint. What we do is we create these terms to be able to refer to something, and they get catchy, and everybody starts using that term, and then we lose the sight of what that initially was in the beginning. Because a triangle-shaped object would you call that a Tic-Tac? No, I wouldn't call that a Tic-Tac at all. It didn't look like a Tic-Tac.
Yeah.
So we have problems with that, and that also is a problem in other countries, because remember, it's not just the United States. There's other countries with their own little terms that they've got. And so, and then let me go back to the Romans saw fiery shields. So, you get what I'm saying. It's like, there are all these big changes in the culture that comes up to try to apply to the fact that they're seeing something. And there's a certain mythology, if you would, that if you looked at that, that's in play. And it's about the fact that people try to report using terms that they're familiar with, that they hear, or whatever like that, and it becomes a problem. And it becomes a problem from the standpoint that not everything. When you say a Tic-Tac, what do you think a Tic-Tac looks like? What do you think that means? And now, is that shape really a Tic-Tac? Or is it elongated, like a cigar shape, because they had cigar shaped craft.
Well, right, because you have those old, you have documents from back in '54 where people were talking about cigar shaped objects. I find this fascinating.
You use a cigar to be able to describe the fact that it looked like that, right? And so again, people are using their own vernacular from their own, culture, if you would, however they get the news or something like that. That becomes the buzzword. So,
but the fact that Tic-Tac hasn't started a marketing program off of this is boggling my mind at this point. I can't believe it.
No kidding. I agree.
So I've got, I guess, a two-part question, and then I see Alex Sears in the background in the waiting room. Alec, do you have a question for Rich Hoffman? Give me a thumbs up if you do. Okay, cool. I'll get to your question in a second, and then Alex's question will be the last one we have for Mr. Hoffman. So it seems to me that this media push has a two-prong effort, and maybe you can add or subtract from this. I feel like the first number one goal of this media push, this blitz, is to get pilots to get comfortable reporting strange things in the sky, whether they be at a base, whether they're on a ship, whether they're in a plane. This idea that, hey, Alec Dietrich, David Fravor, Senator Rubio, the Navy has changed the protocols on how to report these things. It seems like, because of course we also have this double-sided issue with some of these things are Chinese and Russian drones, and they're not being reported because of the stigma and the taboo associated with weird things in the sky. So it seems like this media push is part one of it is to get pilots and credible eyeballs to report it. And then the second part of it seems almost not I want to say minuscule, but almost like, not as important, is this UAP discussion, this diamond in the rough discussion. I think it is a big part of it. And you said earlier that the Senate Intelligence Committee has seen videos, plural. So I'm curious, what do you think of that theory? Do you think I'm on the right track there?
Well, I think that's, I would, let me put it this way. I think that number one, there's multiple aims of this whole thing. I think one of the aims is probably to make this a credible conversation, and that's the big push. But also the media is great about trying to push the senators and their representatives towards getting active about it. In other words, doing something friggin' about it instead of sitting on it for such a long time. And so, and I think that another part of that is well, when you get something like this report that's due, everybody's on board and they all want to get it out. And behind the scenes, there are a lot of pressure from the standpoint of the public now that's being applied, which is great because that's helping to push this discussion further. You got Lou out there, you got us pushing it, and other people pushing it. There are these incredible videos that are coming out and stuff like that. It's all helping to create this tremendous dialoguing that we have not had for a long time.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that is not just that pilots can feel comfortable about reporting it, but it's about the fact that scientists and maybe military people can have hallway discussions now about this and not be laughed at, and maybe open up and talk about it openly, right?
Right.
And so let's have the open dialogue. Let's have the open discussions. We're seeing in SCU a tremendous number of people that are coming on board that are scientists. These are professors in physics and all this other stuff. Before they couldn't even talk about it at their universities. Now they can talk about it. And so we want to encourage that, and that's what SCU is trying to do. It's trying to say, hey, we want to have a scientific dialogue, and we want to have this discussion. We want to talk about the propulsion systems. We want to leverage those physicists. We want to be able to get all these other disciplines engaged. And so let's have the dialogue and make it so we can finally come out of the closet and talk about it. So it's like it's taking the invisible college and making it visible.
Right.
Have you reached out to? Have you guys reached out to Sam Harris yet? I'm seeing him as specifically coming out and talking about this. I know the idea of public intellectuals, podcasters coming out and having this conversation is incredibly valuable. Is he somebody that might be of value to the SCU?
Well, first off, I don't know Sam. I've heard of him, but I don't know him personally or don't know much about him. So I have to like get ramped up on that. But anybody that's going to be treating this seriously, you know, and is in line with the direction that I'm telling you, ought to be on board, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are a coalition,
Right.
right? We're a coalition, and we're building partners. We partnered with KUFOS. We partnered with the UAPX people. We partnered with SkyHub. We partnered with the new is it NARCAP? NARCAP. I did a brain fart there for a minute.
That's okay.
So we're wanting to partner with a whole bunch of other organizations as well, because we're wanting to be able to have the dialogue,
Right.
even going on between us.
But not
And
only
so-
that, share information, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah. I mean, and we're about, you know, making all of our stuff transparent. Every paper that we're putting together, we're putting it up on our website. You can all read it. Go up there and explore scu.org and read it, you know. So, I mean, we're trying to be as transparent as we can. We'd like to be able to, at the same time, to be able to build a relationship over in the intelligence community. In fact, we have team members that are helping us to do that, because guess what? We might be able to get some unclassified information, because we are a scientific group and a think tank, if you would, that they might like to have us to help study and to give some report on, right? So we are looking even at that channel to be able to open up the doors. And there's a number of us that, have clearances and stuff like that.
Ooh.
And so,
Boy, okay, that opens up a whole nother can of questions, but we just don't have the time. We're gonna have to have you back, Rich.
When can you come back, my man?
When can you come back? And I also I want friends. Bring friends. Like, we need more SCU guys on the show. Because damn, yeah, this was a crazy awesome conversation. Real quick, I want to remind people, if you enjoy conversations like this, we have them all the time. And I know that this topic is going to be new for a lot of people, and they're going to be looking for a place to listen to conversations like this. I'm hoping this is a channel that you can share and not be embarrassed about. Like, we always come back, and Rich, I don't know if you know this about the show, but we always come back to the terra firma of, we know there's something in the sky, because the Pentagon has confirmed it, the Navy has confirmed it, our pilots have chased it, we've got it on radar. It's beyond a reasonable doubt anymore. That just the fact, the starting point of this house is they're real. Anything past that, below that, we don't know yet. But this is why we made this channel, so we can have conversations like this, so we can do a little bit of speculation, but always come back to the reality of what we know are facts. So share the channel, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I want to remind you, on Wednesday, we're doing our Skinwalker review with UFO Jane and Christina. Speaking of Christina, she has a show on Friday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Shifting the Paradigm. And also, we've got our interview with John Greenwald at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's going to be dope. Michael doesn't have a show on Thursday. What'd you think about that conversation? You're muted again.
God, sorry.
You did it again, Zetterstrom.
So that was my first time seeing it. So wow,
It's a cool interview, right?
It was so cool to see like what you guys were kind of predicting then and what has come true now. And oh man, I don't even know where to start. I mean, right at the top, the whole like Aguadilla video thing you guys were talking about, where he's like, certain aspects of the video are owned by different people, and that, like, I never even thought about that. Like, yeah, the audio is owned by the people who were dealing with the transmissions. Meanwhile, the video is owned by so and so. Blah blah blah.
Right, depending on
that
what,
really,
It's
that
wild.
really caught my attention.
I thought that was a really cool part of the show as well. Rich absolutely laid it down wonderfully, and I cannot wait to have him back on the show, man.
He's such a cool guy.
He was on for the Big Phone Home. Yeah, dig when he
this.
said dig this, I was like, all right, cool. This guy's having a good time. Like it's just fun to see scientists who are excited to talk about this stuff.
Right. And like have fun with it. Like you could tell that dude can chill. Like you get a couple beers in him.
Yeah.
He looks like he could be in like a Beatles cover band or something.
No, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, like, if I am curious,
if you got him in a room, we had a couple drinks, and it was a very relaxed atmosphere with nobody recording anything. I mean, he is a government contractor.
Yes, yeah.
So it'd be interesting. I mean, I wonder what kind of stories you might be able to squeeze out of him if he wasn't on camera. You know,
That was another interesting aspect of the interview. The whole private companies.
I was going to ask you, do you ever come across that while you do interviews? Because you write books, you do the podcasts, you do TV shows. I mean, are there ever moments where you're talking to somebody and then the camera or the recording device stops and then you guys go out and have dinner or something more casual, and then maybe they start to let it fly? Does that ever happen?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Now, like, to what extent you believe it or not is, it's super subjective. But I mean, there have been times I've gone to UFO conferences, primarily the UFO Congress, and they do like an open bar thing the first night, or like the speakers go, they have drinks with the guests, and some of them, they'll stick around for a while and take advantage of that open bar. And there were a few times that I was in a room with certain people, Colonel Halt from the Rendlesham incident, or like John Alexander. And I'm just like, oh my God, like if they ever said this stuff in public, it could change the entire conversation. So it's frustrating, especially with television. Like that, that's kind of the thing Lou always bumps up against. He wants to tell people things on TV or in interviews, but he can't. And I'm sure that's a big struggle.
Yeah. I feel like if somebody supercut all of his interviews into one thing, you might be able to get a lot more information out of what he's saying. And I remember in the lead up for the first Big Phone Home, he was, everything that they've said has pretty much come to fruition. Primarily the part of the first report where Lou was telling us for months, expect a delay. And if we don't get a delay, expect that report to not contain what you're looking for. It's not going to have the bodies. It's not going to have the craft. It's going to be very almost like stereo instructions on what we're looking at or talking about. And he was 100% right. And then in when he was in Italy talking about the 4 congressional classified briefings that senators and congressmen will get every year after this law. I mean, that's why I don't want to say trust him 100%, but I've got a good feeling that they're not taking us for a ride, because like Michael always says, nobody wants to be made a fool. Nobody wants to look like a fool. Nobody wants to be wrong, especially this wrong on somebody or something.
Yeah.
But that's why and by the way, the interview with Lou Elizondo and his father and my dad is going to be in this top 10. I haven't decided exactly where it's going to sit. But that is just a cool conversation that has almost nothing to do about UAP. That the whole point of that conversation was to get an inside of who Lou Elizondo is, who raised Lou Elizondo, what kind of morals does he act with. And I think we got a really beautiful picture or window into a little bit of what kind of human he is, from his, not from his words, from his father's words.
I really appreciated that, man. Like, again, I think we all should be very hesitant when it comes to former intelligence people, but that was a chance, that was an opportunity for us to really get to know him and see where he came from. And he's a very open guy. There's some things he can't talk about. And of course, those are the things we want to hear. Yeah. But the dude is just like you and me. He's trying to find answers on the outside now, which I think I admire that. No matter, what comes of all of this, I appreciate what he's done and how he's tried to really get everyone involved. And he realizes he can't do it alone. And I can't wait for that replay. I'm going to have to watch that one again. That was so cool. For sure.
Well, Ryan, thanks for being here. And the ladies over at that one time I was abducted by aliens says congrats to Ryan and his engagement.
Oh, thank you.
Brian Sprague got engaged this year. Have you guys picked a date? Is the lady going full wedding mode?
No, not yet. We're taking it. We're in no rush. I still have to get disclosure before the wedding happens, so it could be a while.
Oh boy,
it could be a while. That was the deal.
All right, that was the deal. She agreed to that.
She agreed to it. She's
I
more
wonder if I can get
optimistic
Michelle
about
to agree to
disclosure
this.
Jane is the Steve Bassett of the two of us. She thinks it's gonna happen every year.
Yeah, I love it. Well, dude, thanks so much for hanging out today
Oh, my pleasure.
and being part of the show. Want to say thank you to everyone in the chat. I don't get a lot of opportunities because we do the show live. There's so many things that are going on when the show's going live that I don't get a whole lot of opportunities to interact with you guys in the chat here. So I appreciate you guys having fun today. I'm also happy that I was here today. Someone mentioned it was cool to interact with Lou in the chat today. Want to say thank you to MP, who put $200 into that discussion back in June. He's an awesome Patreon supporter. He's just amazing. He's one of the best supporters that UCR has, so I cannot thank him enough. But we've also got some amazing, just passionate, incredibly passionate people around this show, like Flarius Kevin and Case for Infinity and Bottled Water and Buck Wild and Enzo and all of you guys that were here, Zofa. I mean, you guys saw your names popping up during that discussion. It was cool. Like, it was cool to see that you guys have been here for the whole year. And the way the show has grown in this year has been incredible. A lot of that is thanks to you, Ryan. A lot of that is thanks to all of these wonderful people in the chat. Grandmaster Flash, thank you for being here. It's just been a really, really, really fun year. And what was cool is, like, I was like, oh man, that Richard Hoffman, I remember that being a great discussion. And it was a great discussion. It was fun to listen to. And man, these next 9 days are going to be cool. The next 9 days of December, we're going to do one of these every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, probably not on Christmas Day. Maybe we'll come back on Saturday or Sunday and play one and then continue the rest of the countdown for in the rest of next week. But I'm happy I get to go back and sort of just listen to these again. Yeah. Listen to these really great moments. I could tell you some other great moments that we're looking at. We're looking at Robert Salas's Is This the Lou Elizondo show during the Big Phone Home 2. I think we're going to go back and listen to that conversation. We're going to go back and listen to we had a whole bunch of you guys reached out on Twitter and gave me your favorite episodes. So you're going to see a lot of those. Again, we're going to see Lou Elizondo and his dad at some point. I'm just not sure where these are going to fit. Depends, I guess, on how I feel for the day or how many people vote for these things. But a lot of people loved the latest conversation that we had with Brandon Fugel, the latest conversation that we had with John Ramirez. So maybe we play those again, but those are pretty new. I kind of want to go back a little further and pull up some of these really fun interviews that people just forgot about or maybe didn't see because they weren't part of the UCR family. So go check out the archive. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, I was just looking today. I can't do the math right now because I don't have a calculator. But we're at like 185,000 hours of watch time on YouTube, which when you do the math on it, I think I want to say it's like, you know what? Let me just do the math because it was really let me get the calculator.
I was going to say, while you're doing that, man, one of your Twitter followers threw a really cool top 10 list of their own together. I saw over on your Twitter of their favorite UCR episodes. So people should check that out. That was cool. I think it was Grant
LeVac. I mean, Grant LeVac
did like a little clip show.
That's another one of just our passionate followers, man. That look, there's so many ways to contribute to this show without putting a dollar into it. You know, like Grant LeVac, just he makes all of these deep fakes. He makes all of these sort of best of videos or best moments. And Simon Fly does the remix with the music videos. There's just a lot of cool people within this community that have taken this show and made it their own thing, which is super exciting to see. But 85,000 hours, right, is divided by 365 days is 232 years. 232 years worth of watch time. That's insane. That's insane.
That's amazing.
That's
Dude,
insane.
Well, you even said in the Hoffman interview, like you wanted to become this place where people could have these discussions 5 times a week and like come together and like it's okay to talk about these things. And you've done that. That was what, a year ago, that Rich Hoffman interview?
It was in June.
In June.
It was right before. Yeah.
Okay.
June, yeah. It was
And you,
right after, I think, the big phone home.
Okay. Yeah. And you've become that, man. Like, that's why I'm a super fan. Like, it doesn't matter like who you are, what you've done, how prominent you are in this field. Like, we're all in this together. And that's why I've been one of your supporters from the very start. I saw what you were doing and I immediately said, that's what I want. I want that. I want a friend like that. So I'm so happy that's what we became and that I could be here with you today. So thank you, man. This is going to be fun to relive some of these interviews. A lot of them that I actually haven't seen yet. So yeah. I got a lot of catching up to do. So yeah. Man. Kudos.
Well, somebody said that that math seems odd. Maybe my math is off. But when you
what'd you say? 185,000 or 85,000?
185,000 hours.
Thousand divided by 365 days, right?
Yeah.
506.
506.84.
Whatever that means.
506 years? Is that right?
I don't know. Dude, you're talking to an English major.
Somebody else do the math. I can't do it right now. I'm too tired. But yeah, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched today. It was a lot of fun. Michelle's in the house. Michelle says, "Yay,
hi,
top
Michelle.
10." Hi, everyone.
She's probably thank you for the holiday card.
Oh yeah, show everybody the holiday card that Michelle sent you.
There we go.
She put a lot. She sent a holiday card beautiful. To almost everyone.
So adorable.
Oh my god! And by the way, babe, Ryan figured out that was his sweater that I was wearing under this Photoshop.
The Heineck hoodie. I could tell by the hood. I could tell, but she did a fantastic job. Talk about deep fakes. Yeah, Michelle is the master at that. If this card says anything, so.
Indeed, yeah, no, she's really, really good at doing. What's funny, yeah. Anyway, she's a killer at the Photoshop skills. She does all of our thumbnails.
Amazing.
Love it. She's the best.
I gotta hire her. Mine are looking a little hurt these days.
Yeah, you can't hire her. She's got an exclusive contract, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
All right, you guys. Well, we appreciate all of you sticking around, hanging out, watching this episode with us. Ryan, you're more than welcome to come hang out anytime you want, dude. I know you're gonna be have some free time here in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to come back and hang out with us, you're more than welcome to. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays to everyone. Yeah.
Before you get out of here, tell everybody where they can find Ryan Sprague.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm every Monday, Somewhere in the Skies podcast. On YouTube as well, Ryan Sprague YouTube channel, Twitter at Somewhere Skies. Yeah, I've got some exciting news coming up too. I'm going to be having a official co-host of the Somewhere in the Skies podcast joining me in the new year. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Maybe.
Is it? Can you give me a gender?
I cannot. Oh, I'm sorry. That would make it all too easy.
Would you think so?
Yeah. So everyone's like, oh, then it's definitely got to be a female. Because there's not many females in the UFO community.
By the way,
sadly.
Grandmaster UV says it's 21 years of watch time.
There we go. Wow.
That's still insane. I don't know.
That's crazy, dude. 21 years?
That's insane.
Legal drinking age here in the States.
That's insane. Oh, our show is 21 years old, technically. You
can drink.
It's a legal drinking age. Awesome, man. All right, my dude. Well, I'll see you soon. Love you to death. And I can't wait to see who this new co-host is.
Stay tuned, my man. Happy holidays.
Maybe you could tell me in secret. I swear.
I will.
I won't spill
I will.
All right, dude. I'll see you in a second. All right, you guys. That's it. That's today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like this format. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you to the Patreons. Thank you to DOS Tapes for providing all the tunes. Thank you to Michael Mataluni. Thank you to Rather Be Squidding. Thank you to Jane. Thank you to Aaron Desario. Thank you to Daniel Miller, all of the folks that are part of the UCR team and that have been part of the UCR team, Artemis Prime, doing our own stuff, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show as passionately as you do. It's so much damn fun to do this show for you guys every single day. So I appreciate it. I love you all. Stay safe out there. Peace. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.